update time. Things are really starting to look the part now. Again, well, this time no pun intended, I guess. This piece being a little farther behind this piece. I have had a lot of success pulling this framing into the square cut that was done on this sheet of plywood. And like I was saying, I use one of these lifting shores that I have for picking up small buildings and making foundation repairs. It's just a glorified jack. This area of it here turns and it threads out the stem and takes that plate right up. So just the height, it has relatively high technology. It's a thrust bearing in here, so you, when you're turning, aren't really bearing the load that it's underneath. It's real easy to turn that and walk that thread out, despite the fact that you're carrying thousands of pounds in some circumstances, which made this a lot easier because there certainly aren't 1,000 pounds to deal with here. So some other stuff going on. Getting the luan on here has really taken a lot of the wiggle out of it. It's quite robust. And another cool thing, where is it? This is the remnant triangle from this piece of plywood. It went here, but that's the angle in the stairway overall. It's the angle of the hypotenuse of the triangle that's made up by the run, the rise, and then the hypotenuse. It's that angle here at the base. Wrong hand. It's the angle here is the angle on this sheet. It's you've got to set your tools to 36 inches or 36 degrees because it's a 54-degree angle. That's on everything. But that is neat because this drop or remnant piece of plywood will go right in here and it'll sit. Bear with me here, one hand again. But it'll go right over there, crushing underneath there, to this, to this, to this. And actually this little triangle that hangs off will perfectly fit. I don't smash them to pieces. That little triangle will go right here. Boop. Oh, and you can see the latches that I've got. Oh, hey-oh. It's really neat how the luan goes past the framing and hides the wheels, but I have to always tell stage crew not to tow or stop these big heavy pieces this way because there's actually nothing there but luan. And most years there's one location where I have to replace the sheet after everything's painted and finished. Although this year we're going to have a baseboard that runs all around here and will add strength to that, so maybe we won't have that situation happen. But you notice here the nature of the triangle is that it's just turned at 90 degrees, which is why that last little piece fits right here. But these are our sweet little latches that come over. They need to be trimmed a little bit because they come one size fits all, but this comes over and stops against there, which is a pink finger smasher, so I'll have to teach the kids about that. Don't get your hand in there, but then when you cam that over, it pulls that in tight. And then these on the other side, we're going to have a problem here because the smooth surface of these stairs is designed to sit tightly to the other. So I'm actually going to, I'm only ever going to need 2 of these latches. I threw this on here just to see what this does for, what having that sucked in tight does for solidarity, I guess. Now there's no brakes on this. We are going to put brakes on it as well. But it really adds a ton of, there's a little bit of, I can make it move up here, but you can see it moving down there a little bit. Some view. But, and then we'll have brakes on this as well. However, what am I going to do to get rid of that latch? I will make a French cleat. There will be a pocket here. Whoa, knew that was going to happen. Got to be careful of that. This has been routered to fit around that perfectly, which makes it nice and clean, but we may have to tape it or protect the edge a little bit. Anyway, what am I going to do here? Move this latch to the other piece at that location on the mirror image. And so the 2 latches, if they were $20 for the pair, will do us. But what will happen here is because the steps on this piece stick out, there will be, I chose this piece of the set to have the block that sticks out here. It'll stick out 1.5 inches, and it'll have a 45-degree back angle on it, and it'll just go from like here to here or something like that. It'll stick over. It's a French cleat, and then there'll be a pocket in here that it comes over into and jams, and then you pull the other side shut and latch it, and this piece will be on here, and that'll allow this side to be entirely smooth. Same with the mirror image, and we won't need to use both latches. I think that's going to take care of it. For now, we're going to let everybody use the set as it is, and that sort of building that attachment is sort of a secondary thing. I want to get this thing covered completely with Luan. And the other thing we're going to do is reuse these balustrade or baluster posts. A lot of times, like, it's a cool trick to stack soda bottles back and forth on a dowel to make baluster. From a distance, it looks pretty cool. Ballast, like actually turned on the lathe, baluster posts are kind of expensive. It's also the very cheapest ones are just sort of chintzy looking, and this is supposed to be like an opulent kind of a mansion. And so we did another show a few years ago called Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, I believe. But we built all of these. They're just simply screwed one by material with a certain angle, the angle being the one of that staircase from that show. And then the piece that we made the top out of, we made either a dado, I can't remember, or a router pass on, just to put like a notch in there. And so if you put these, this is neat because you can sit there and factory style, somebody can make all these pieces, and then somebody can, you know, bang them all together with screws, pre-drill them all, because it's small sizes. Come on guys, just sit here so I can illustrate my point. But they go pretty quickly, and you can get a few uses out of them. Anyway, they're going to be screwed on there. I had these all sitting here the other day, but I guess these are going to give me trouble. Every one of them give me trouble. Anyway, it's a neat little trick because from a distance they make this cool kind of mid-century or even Art Deco looking baluster system. Come on, dude. There you go. You get them all, and basically they go in the same spot on each stair, which is nice. You can make a little jig that makes a little, you know, a little piece that sits on each step, so you can make a mark with a pencil every one, and then you can be sure that these all go on in the right spot. But you can see how they kind of build a cool sort of look. And then I kick this step out because there's going to be a newel post here. But the cool trick that they help with to create the actual handrail, which railing systems are quite complicated to construct, but what we end up doing here is, and I'll draw it on here, from the end you have this, you have this dado in that top piece, and then we get PVC pipe of a certain diameter. Try to get something that sits down in the dado, on 3 points there, 1, 2, 3. But then we can drill a hole through the top and reach in with the screw gun and put a little screw down into the wood like that. So we get one of those step bits, and the step bit makes a nice big hole opening on the top. And we run through and screw down into every one of these, screw, 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 and then we can style it at the bend with a heat gun, just soften the plastic and do the bend. In this case, it's going to have to stop and start because these are separate pieces, but I'm going to come down here and turn out and around like a handrail like that. But the final thing, because that looks okay, but then we get that, I'm sorry about all the lights in here, but we get that foam pipe insulation. And we get some that's a little bit too small, so when it sits on there, it comes down and maybe stops at the wood, or almost at the wood. And that softens all those curves, and you can stick it down with spray glue or whatever you want. And then once it's all styled around, it has a sort of a hand-sized profile, then you can brush paint that with any kind of latex paint. It's certainly good enough for a show, for a theater show, and then just pull that off and take the plastic and throw it out. But it makes for a really convincing sculpted handrail that doesn't take very much time at all. And again, like I said, we set these aside for following years. I am going to have to put a new angle on these. I think it needs to be a little sharper, so we'll take this top piece off, set them aside, and put these assemblies on the miter saw one after another, and just zip the whole end at a sharper angle, boom, 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 boom. And then we may be able to change the angle on these pieces, or they may have to be remade and screw new ones on there, because as you can see, the angle isn't quite right. This should all line up, and they're all just a little bit different from a different stair system. And then in the end, we have a laser cutter in the technology lab. We could lay out a rectangle, figure out what this is, and make a neat little design, and laser cut a bunch of black tag board, just repeating, and stick them on there, or do any sort of thing like that to supplement the squareness if you don't like that. But try and appreciate how that changes the game. These are the little things that take a ton of time if you don't have a cool plan of attack, but we're getting there. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you.